Hey everyone, Clay here. Just wanted to let you know my graphic novel Bloody Hell is now for sale in stores and on Amazon. So if you'd like to help support the show, get yourself a copy of that. Thanks so much. Here's the show. Welcome to the Rotten Horror Picture Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Rotten Horror Picture Show, the horror movie podcast where we talk about films off of the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Best Horror Movies of All Time list. 50-something episodes in, and I got it down.
Jesus.
My name is Clay, and with me as always is Amanda. How are you doing, Amanda?
I am very good. How are you?
Good. I was looking forward to doing this movie. This is a movie.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a certain
Je ne sais quoi about this movie.
well, that too, but I feel like there's a certain genre of movie. Maybe it's even like a subgenre that really existed in the late 90s to early 2000s. And that genre can be described as like mid-level thriller, high concept thrillers that are pretty good, but nobody really talks about.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this is one. There's another one. Shit, now I can't remember what the hell it's called. It's got what the fuck is the name of that movie? It's got John Cusack in it, and it's about a bunch of people who go to a bunch of strangers who end up at a motel, and the people start getting killed, and you start to find out they all have something in common.
Oh.
And then the twist is that it's all inside the mind of like a mentally challenged person who I think is also a serial killer.
Yes. Oh my God. Now I want to remember the name of this movie too.
Okay, now I got to look it up.
Shit.
But yeah, it's a certain.
Yeah, where like I feel like it was in that moment of time where you could still kind of pull those like really what would seem now like a corny or like really overwrought twist.
Identity.
I
knew it was an I. Because I remember
actually really liked that movie.
Me too. Do you remember the poster?
Yeah, wasn't it like the hand?
The hand with all the fingers were the people.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Wow.
But yeah, it's one of those movies from. It's got to be like 2003. So yeah, it's in the same arena.
Yeah, where you could kind of get away with that more now. Like audiences were maybe a little more credulous going into it.
Yeah,
and
it's just also they're always like kind of under the radar.
Yeah, like a good a decent cast.
Yep.
Like you've got at least one or two people on the cast that it's like, oh, okay, that's a name, that's a real person, and like not bad writing.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Yeah, and like decent enough budget that like things look okay, but not like a blockbuster movie.
Right.
Yeah.
We are not talking about Identity.
Yeah.
Now that we know.
But all of those things we just said can also apply to this movie.
Yes, we are talking about Frailty.
Frailty.
From another Y movie from the same genre. From 2001.
Single word.
It
ends in a Y.
It is number 190 on our list. It has a 75% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Wow.
Had you seen this before?
I had. So this was definitely a, along with some of my other probably favorite movies when I was a teenager, the Costco DVD table.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
You go into Costco and there was just this enormous table covered in DVDs and they were all like $9.99 or cheaper.
Oh yeah. Your husband's parents loved that section of the store.
Yes. Well, so did my family. But in my family, it was pretty much like occasionally you could pick. You could either get a book or a DVD.
DVD every time. If I was offered that choice, I would never have chosen a book.
See, I chose the book most of the time.
Yeah, it's because
I'm a nerd.
You're enlightened.
No, I'm a nerd.
You're the one who's choosing a book over buying Identity on DVD from Costco.
To be honest, I think that Identity was one of the ones where I chose the DVD.
Yeah, I
but Frailty was.
I might actually own Identity.
I wonder if I do.
I think I did at one point.
I owned this. This is what I'm saying. I like Frailty. Okay. So I found it at Costco when I was like, probably 13 or 14, however old I was when this came out. And I was like, I'm going to buy this movie. And my mom was like, sure, go for it.
I'm kind of regretting picking we have another wild card coming up after this episode. I'm kind of regretting picking the movie already because now I feel like we owe it to the people to do Identity.
Yeah.
So there's a series of 3 movies.
Okay.
That I think if I owned this movie, then yes, 3 movies that all occupy this space that I bought used from Blockbuster.
Nice.
It's Identity, a movie called Imposter, which is a Gary Sinise movie based on a Philip K. Dick movie story.
Whoa.
And a movie called Session 9.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
Session 9 is legitimately good. I haven't watched it in a very long time. I'm pretty sure I still own it. I own it. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I don't think I have Identity anymore. I think that might have been purged at some point. But
yeah,
I'll have to go look. I think I also got rid of Imposter, but I can't remember. Yeah, that's so. Did you see it? Did you see Frailty for the first time on DVD?
Yes.
Did you buy it sight unseen?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was, it was kind of like, I want to watch this movie.
You were really taken in by the high contrast.
By the Matthew McConaughey?
Absolutely. Face, turning into a bunch of doves.
I am a woman. I cannot help it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually saw this in the theater. I think I may have seen it with your husband.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I remember specifically seeing this in the theater, and I think it was like a very full theater.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was actually sitting on the floor watching this movie.
What?
Yeah, it was the kind of thing where it was like there was, it's the 2 levels.
Allowed?
No. But it was the 2 levels of seats where they had like the walkway in the middle where like they put the handicap seats.
Yeah.
And I think it was a small theater. And it must have been full because I very clearly remember sitting on the floor next to
was this like
the handicap.
The old Showcase Cinema in Revere before it was redone
No,
or something?
I think it was like, it might have been the Liberty Tree Mall or something.
Oh, that makes sense.
But I think it was basically like, I think it was full. I think we probably had like 5 people with us.
Yeah.
And I think not all of us
Yeah, but
could
nobody
find
was paying
seats
attention
together.
in the Liberty Tree Mall.
Oh, no,
anything,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was one, there was all of these movies in that sort of like subgenre.
Yes.
Kind of live or die by their twist ending.
Yes.
And I remember all of them being like, that's the thing I remember coming out of that movie going like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was so good. Like that movie Imposter.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a very good movie, but the twist is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Identity, I don't remember if it's I think it was pretty good. I remember Identity being solid,
yeah.
But the twist is, I not in a million years would I have guessed that.
Yeah.
And this one is another one that lives or dies by its twist, which I do want to talk about. I don't know. I'm curious to see. I kind of wish one of us or your husband hadn't seen it.
Yeah, that somebody had gone in clean.
Yeah, because I would like to know how this plays. Well, it clearly plays well because I think this movie, the most memorable thing when you bring it up is like, oh, that's the one where, blank, blankety blank. So yeah, it's a really interesting small movie from 2001. It's Bill Paxton's feature film directorial debut. He only directed 2 movies. The other one was a movie about golf with Shia LaBeouf.
That sounds like my nightmare.
But yeah, it's this is one where I think like most people, I saw it, I really liked it.
Yep.
It was a surprise. I think I wasn't expecting much out of it.
Yes, yeah.
And then I kind of never really thought about it again until somebody brought it up in passing. You go, oh yeah, no, that movie's great. And then I don't think about it again for 5 or 10 years. So we are back in that section where we're thinking about it. And,
back in the Costco DVD table.
Yes, that's what we should do for Patreon next year.
There we go.
Go to Costco and just start grabbing movies out of the bin. We are going to take a quick break, play the trailer for you, and then we will talk about Frailty.
You the agent in charge of the case?
That's right. What can I do for you?
I'm here because I can't live with what I know anymore. Listen, this may sound a little bit crazy, but I know who the goddamn killer is.
What makes you think that?
You hadn't even heard me out yet, and already you doubt me.
They were raised to obey their father,
Go do some homework.
to love him, to trust him,
Night, boys. Sleep tight.
Don't let those bed bugs bite.
until
Wake up. I've got something to tell you.
What's wrong?
There are demons among us. I can see the demons, while other people can't.
I'm scared, Dad.
Nothing that crazy could be real.
The angel told me that God would be sending weapons.
Maybe you just dreamed it. Maybe you're not right in the head.
God will be sending a list of the first 7 demons.
These are people's names.
And they'll look like people, but they're not.
Dad made up this whole thing. Do you understand?
Well, if it has to be done, it has to be done.
Is that true?
Why would I make it up?
It's all a big lie. I don't want to run away.
You are hiding something from me.
What is it you think I'm hiding?
When I lay my hands on them, I'll reveal them for what they truly are.
I got a pretty good idea what them bodies are.
I'll tell.
Craziest thing I've heard in a long time.
Ah! Check the rose garden.
I don't believe a word of it.
But it's true.
Bill Paxton,
Those were demons, so why can't you see that?
Matthew McConaughey,
Tell me the truth.
Sometimes truth defies reason.
You're crazy.
Only demons should fear me. You're not a demon, are you?
Frailty, number 190 on our list, 75% Rotten Tomatoes score, directed by Bill Paxton, written by Brent Hanley, starring Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey, Powers Booth, Matt O'Leary, Jeremy Sumpter, and Otis the Axe.
Nice.
Amanda, what happens in Frailty?
One day, a widowed blue-collar worker has a revelation. He must destroy those revealed to him as demons. He then begins the serial killings of the God's Hand killer across Texas. But he also has 2 young sons, the younger of whom idolizes him and believes in the cause, while his older brother is revolted but cannot bring himself to stop his father. 20 years later, the elder son walks into a police station and confesses.
Yeah, that gets you there without spoiling anything, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising because you would think reading that summary that like, well, now I know everything about this movie.
Right.
But if you haven't seen this movie, you still don't know everything about this movie.
Right. Yeah, it's we can talk about the twist when we talk about the twist, but
Yes.
I remembered it incorrectly. And so they actually kind of like there's like a support system built into the twist that makes it not totally obvious what's going on.
Yeah.
Which I think is what makes this movie really fun.
Yeah. Well, in this really fun movie,
Yes.
some things you'll find include
The most fun movie we've watched about biblical murder and child
I don't know if that's actually true. We'll have to look at the back catalog.
That's true.
But things you'll find in this movie include Deus Ex Trophy
Yes. Yep. If you're ever
and
going
also
to be
car engine block and also et cetera, et cetera.
if you're ever going to be driven to kill, catching the glint off of your bowling trophy is
yeah,
the best.
or like your old high school track and field trophy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes sense because you look at it and you go, well, it's not going to get any better than that.
Right.
It's all downhill from there.
Might as well pick up the pipe. The Ninja Turtles murder van,
That van looked exactly like the Ninja Turtles van.
except people were getting demons. Demons were getting murdered.
If the Ninja Turtles aren't demons, I don't know what they are.
Well, they weren't getting murdered in it.
That's true.
Proof that the family that stays together slays together.
Yep. Very, very nice familial bond
Yeah.
that was then exploded and then brought to get back together at the end.
A head-sized window into total insanity.
Yes. It was a very
I love that. I love that moment.
that shot of his head on a black
God,
background.
Just a child's head receding into a pure black background.
That is a very like old style shot.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've seen that
it's
on the Twilight Zone.
so
or
out of
something.
step with the rest of the way this movie is shot that it's like I cannot help but laugh at it.
Yeah, it
Like-
feels to me like an imagery from like an old Alfred Hitchcock movie that Bill Paxton had in his head that he
where he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get an homage to obscure movie number 3. And of course, questionable parenting.
Yeah, lots of it.
Lots of it.
Lots
of it.
Unless he's telling the truth, and then in which case,
Still lots of it.
Great parenting.
No. Still
He's
highly
instilling
questionable.
values into his sons, Amanda.
Everything he does seems custom designed to drive his son further away.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, cart, horse, etc., etc.
Yeah, Frailty. This movie is it's kind of the perfect movie for the end of the 90s, early 2000s. It's like thriller run.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of like if Seven and The Usual Suspects had a baby.
Huh.
Where it's got the same sort of like really dark biblical based murder stuff, and then you've got the Usual Suspects sort of twist at the end where the the guy whose foot's messed up isn't really messed. Well, that doesn't literally happen, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's both of those things. It's also very prescient because there were some scenes of this movie that I felt like I was watching True Detective.
Was that because of the movie, because of the setting, or because of Matthew McConaughey?
Mostly Matthew McConaughey and telling a story about a dark murder.
Yeah, lots of McConaughey voiceover.
Yeah, in a police station.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really fun. I don't even know if fun is the right word. But how did you feel that it held up going back and revisiting it?
It's funny because I remember when I first watched this, like 13, 14-year-old me thought it was really, really boring until the end.
Sure.
I didn't feel that way this time. It wasn't boring, but there's something, maybe because of the framing device of, all right, so at the beginning of this movie, a man comes into not just a police station, he comes into an FBI office.
Right.
And he says, my name is Fenton Meeks.
Rust Cole.
Yeah, pretty much. My name is Fenton Meeks, and my brother, my brother Adam was the God's Hand killer. And my father was a killer. Let me tell you this whole story. And then the rest of the movie, up until pretty much the very end, is this framing device of him telling the story. So we're getting everything in flashbacks.
Right.
And I think for me, having so much of the movie in flashbacks, it like kind of removes some of the stakes.
Yeah.
As you're watching it, like, because he says, my brother, because he says, my brother was the killer and he recently committed suicide. So I'm going to tell you everything. So the whole time that both the boys live.
Right.
Which isn't shocking. They're kids in a movie. Kids, especially in, early 2000s movies aren't getting.
All good movies kill their children.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird experience watching this movie, knowing the twists that are to come. I think even given that, though, it held up surprisingly well, and I think I found myself better understanding as an adult some of the difficulty and like the emotional aspects of it, where it's like this is his father, and the father really believing in what he's doing and thinking he's doing the right thing. I think it kind of gave the movie a little bit more of an emotional depth for me, even if you miss the sort of adrenaline kick of the twist.
Yeah, it's kind of looking at this now with a more a better understanding of how stories work.
Yeah.
It's tough for me to watch this movie and not go, clearly there's a twist coming. Because if there's not, what is this all driving towards? Yeah,
everything's like too straightforward for too long. And so I think that's kind of how I was feeling when I said the stakes feel like they're not there for so much of the movie. Because, it's sort of like, all right, if everything has already happened, then what's the point?
Yeah, and if there's no twist, then it's like...
Yeah, could you imagine if this movie ended with the FBI agent being like, well, I'm going to ask you to come in for an official interview, and we're going to go raid your brother's house. Thank you for cooperating.
Yeah, honestly,
Goodbye.
I think that story probably. I think there's another version, a lesser version of this movie that kind of does end that way, because they do set it up that he's like stolen his brother's body from the morgue, which is a nice
Right.
detail they just kind of gloss over.
Yeah. Yeah.
In like a phone call, like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we know that guy. He stole that body from the morgue.
Yeah.
Even though I think that woman that he talks to is actually his wife.
I
Fenton's-
think
Adam's
so.
wife, yeah.
Yeah, I think she's made up a
in on
cover
it,
story
yeah.
for him. Yeah.
But I can see a version of this movie that is more about telling the story and then like actually laying the brother to rest or something like that. But that's not. There's no fun in that.
Yeah.
And but watching it this time, I was thinking, all right, well, if you don't have the, you have to be expecting something this whole time. Otherwise, what is the point of any of this? What is this driving towards? However, I think what kind of stops that from being too much of a hang up
Yeah.
is the stuff with Bill Paxton and the sons is actually pretty interesting
Yeah.
and pretty engaging.
Yeah.
Because you've got basically the story of this father who either has a psychotic break or has been given a vision by God that he is now needs to go and start killing demons.
Yeah.
And he's imparting this onto his two sons, one of whom is into it, the other of whom thinks this is insane.
Right.
And you kind of watch the family deteriorate as Bill Paxton is actually going out and murdering people.
Yeah.
And
Not even just going out and murdering people, but bringing them home.
Yeah.
Like bringing them, like kidnapping people, bringing them back to the house and murdering them in front of two children.
Yeah, he does a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like they build a secret killing hole underneath the.
Fenton does most of the work
That
for
was
that.
a big ass hole.
Yeah.
That must have taken him like a month to dig that hole.
Well, he tries to claim that it was like 5 days or
Impossible.
something. Maybe God helped.
Yeah. But you do get, I think you do get this nice kind of like really interesting family story. And I think one of the things that makes it really work for me, and I think where most of the creepiness factor comes for me, is that Bill Paxton, and this is a credit to Bill Paxton because I do want to talk about him in a minute.
Yeah.
He plays it pretty reserved.
Yes.
And pretty, he doesn't like fly off the handle about anything. He just kind of is very calm about the whole thing, as though he just got a letter from his father or something that told him this new information that he now has to act on. He's not thinking about this vision as though it's anything crazy. It's just like, no, this is what's happening now.
Right. And I appreciate the fact that at no point does this movie make him, like a lesser version of this movie would have made it would have tried to go harder in the like, ooh, maybe he is crazy.
Right.
You know, like would have had him like getting drunk at the dinner table and lashing out and throwing things and screaming at the kids. Like, and then swinging back to the really sweet, loving father you see at the beginning.
There's
and
definitely a Jack Torrance version of this movie.
Exactly. Whereas this, I think instead kind of, it plays him as maybe tired or maybe exasperated or frustrated or even fearful, but never like psychotic.
Yeah.
And so it lets you ride that knife's edge the whole movie of being like, well, he's got to be insane because we're seeing him just like kidnap this lady and then kill her with an axe for no reason.
Right.
But he doesn't seem insane. He seems normal. He's still going to work. He's still making the kids dinner. Like, he seems like a loving father.
Yeah. And he never, when he does fly off the handle, it isn't because he's going crazy. It's that he's flying off the handle like a father flies off the handle at a son who is not doing the thing he wants him to do.
At his like 10-year-old son who's disobeying.
Yeah, and even there, it's not like, it's not like the, putting the gun in his hand and go like, you got to kill that boy, and then the kid's like crying,
right.
like, Daddy, I don't want to. He's like flying off the handle because he's like, I don't understand why you don't understand that this is the right thing to do.
Right.
It's not coming from a place of like evil or like malice or violence.
Yeah.
It's coming from him desperately wanting his son to realize that he's doing things wrong.
Right. And sort of the confusion of like, why don't you see it. Like,
Right.
how could you not see it? Your younger brother sees it.
Yeah.
I see it. Why aren't you? Shouldn't you be happy? We've been chosen by God.
Yeah. He's mad at him the way a father gets mad at his son who like took the car without asking.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, and didn't
one
even
too many
do that
times.
bad, didn't do anything that bad to it. It's just more like, what is not getting through to you right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my favorite scene in the movie is when young Fenton, Tuesdays on CBS, when young Fenton brings the sheriff
my
over to the
God.
house.
Yeah.
And the father kills the sheriff, and then they have to get rid of the body.
Yes.
They've already killed 2 or 3 quote unquote demons at this point, but the thing that drives Bill Paxton nuts is that now he's killed someone,
right.
which he doesn't think that he's killed anybody at this point. When
Yes.
he's already killed 5 people.
Yeah, whenever Fenton says something to him about you killed that man or you killed her or whatever, he's like, "No, I did not. I destroyed a demon.
Mm-hmm.
I've never harmed another person in my entire life."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that scene when they're disposing of the body is when he really goes off on Fenton. And like I said,
because he even warned him. He says to him earlier in the movie, like, the angel told me if you try to tell anyone, someone will die.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. And the way, like I said, the way he goes off on him is like, my son just crashed the car.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really, I guess Bill Paxton felt like he was a little too over the top in that scene, but I actually thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was true to the character. If this character really
Yeah.
truly believes he's never harmed a person and now he's killed an innocent man, then yeah, him having a huge emotional reaction makes sense.
Yeah. And they build in this other element to it as well, where he gets another vision or thing from God, basically telling him that Fenton is a demon.
Yes.
And I can't remember exactly how it works out, where he doesn't end up killing Fenton or something, or like he can't bring himself to do it or
He
something like
can't
that.
bring himself to do it, and I think that's pretty soon after that is when he locks him in the cellar, and then Fenton has his own vision.
Window into insanity.
His head-sized window into total insanity, aka a vision from God, as he tells his dad after like 2 weeks starving in the cellar.
Which I was surprised that he wasn't really playing it as though he was just saying it to say it, or was he? I can't. Did you get the feeling that he was saying that just to get out of the hole, or do you think he actually believed it?
No, I think he actually believed it in some way. I think he believed he had an epiphany of some sort, whether that's like the old school religious definition of the word epiphany or the more modern one of a sudden realization.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he means it because of what he does later on.
Yeah. Yeah, he and there's after we're jumping way to the end here, but after he kills Bill Paxton,
Yes.
there's another nice moment where
Nice family bonding moment.
Yeah, where he basically says to his brother,
Yeah,
he's
two
like,
brothers burying their dad in the rose garden.
yeah, you're gonna do this to me eventually because I'm a demon.
Yeah, he says when, not, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's when, not if. When you come to destroy me, you have to promise me you'll bury me in the rose garden too.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so this movie, the plot of the movie in 1979, when Fenton and Adam are kids, is dad has the vision, the visit from the angel. The angel shows him 3 tools, the axe, the pipe, and the gloves, right?
Yep.
And then gives him a list of names.
The 3 godly weapons that he had to find.
Yes.
But then later he buys Fenton a pair of demon wrangling gloves from like Home
Yeah.
Depot or something.
Yeah. I kept wanting to make the holy hand grenade of Antioch jokes this entire time. And I think I made it at Greg and he didn't hear me or didn't care. Yeah, and then they're progressively killing people. Fenton tries to kind of get it to stop. He tells the sheriff. They end up having to murder the sheriff. Fenton gets punished by being put in the cellar. Fenton comes out of the cellar, helps his dad kidnap someone, and then instead of killing the demon, kills his father with Otis the axe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really I think overall the family stuff is pretty engaging in a way that's like, I felt like watching it this time, you could really take anything and kind of insert it in there as this being a metaphor for fucking your kids up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not to get too up to date with it, but like I was watching this going like, how is this different than, say, a father who decides that he's really into QAnon now? You know, like I made a joke about, they were talking about demons and like killing children and eating children, and I was like, well, I would love to hear Bill Paxton's character's thoughts on Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
because it's probably very. I'm sure that's demon number one on his list.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean, where it's like it's an interesting look at someone you're very close to who has had a very hard left turn with their psyche,
or a hard right turn,
yes.
Yeah, where
can't
like
do anything to pull them out of it.
Yeah, a kind of sudden and complete break with reality,
right.
As you see it, at least.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
So yeah, Bill Paxton, director, star. What are your thoughts on Bill Paxton in general? Do you like Bill Paxton?
I like Bill Paxton, but like in this way that he sort of fades into the background for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not like, when I see something has Bill Paxton in it, I always have to take a minute and be like, Bill Paxton, wait a minute. I know him. And then I have to sort of like remember what I've seen him in and what he looks like. Like he just looks like every white man to me.
Yes,
like I cannot, if you put him in a lineup with like slightly similar looking guys, I could not tell you which one is Bill Paxton.
He's not the one who's in Independence Day. That's Bill Pullman.
Right. I think that also confuses me.
I've made that mistake when I was younger.
Yes.
Times.
Yeah, because they were both big and in kind of similar styles of things around the same period of time. Like they were both getting a lot of work in the mid to late 90s,
which is great,
early
you know?
2000s.
It's nice to see him out there getting jobs
absolutely.
and doing work. Yeah.
You know, I think he's a good actor.
Yeah.
I think his like kind of nondescriptness actually makes him a better actor.
Yeah, I really like Bill Paxton when he's in the right role. I don't think he's perfect for everything. He's got this weird style that I think sometimes ends up miscast. However, when he's in the right role, I think he's fantastic.
And do you think this is the right role for him?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are some parts of it where I kind of waver, but I think generally, I think he's good in this.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, he understates pretty much everything, because that's the thing with him. He can go over the top very quickly.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, if you want over the top Bill Paxton, and his over the topness veers very close into just bad.
Yeah.
Like he's really riding a razor thin line there. That's great. Like if that's what you're going for, like Near Dark, perfect Bill Paxton movie.
Yeah.
Aliens, perfect Bill Paxton role. His crowning achievement, the sleazy car salesman from True Lies, perfect Bill Paxton.
But see, like if you had like shown me pictures of him in each of those roles and been like, which actor is this? I'd be like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But now that you've said it, you've reminded me. I'm like, oh yeah, that is him.
Yeah. He's got this kind of goofiness and also sort of like naivete that gets baked into a lot of his characters that I think works well.
Yes.
Like he's great in Tombstone as the third Earp brother who's just kind of like, that's a perfect Bill Paxton role.
Yeah, he does typically fill a certain niche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually the first person? No, he's the second person to be killed by the Terminator in the first Terminator movie. Or is he the first? I think he's the first or the second. He's one of the punks in the first Terminator movie that Terminator gets his clothes from.
Yeah. Isn't the first one a biker?
No, that's Terminator 2.
That's 2. God damn it.
No, the
Don't hate me, everyone.
The three punks in the first Terminator are Bill Paxton, the guy who plays the alien human hybrid assassin, like super soldier from the X-Files.
Oh my God.
Who you would know if you don't see his face.
No,
in your
I
head.
do.
Yeah. And then a third guy who I don't know, and I don't think I've ever seen anything else.
Gotta
but
rewatch the first Terminator movie.
always a good choice.
Yeah.
Two titans of genre, of those guys in genre
Yeah.
movies.
Yes, those guys exactly.
But yeah, I think he's got the right. When you find the right role, I don't know if you've ever seen Club Dread from the guys who did Super Troopers.
No.
Oh man, I love that movie. It's really dumb, but I really enjoy it. And he plays this what the fuck is that guy's name? Jimmy Buffett character called Coconut Pete. And he's got all these stupid ass like shanty songs and Margaritaville type songs that he sings.
Coconut Pete, that's
he's fantastic. Perfect Bill Paxton role.
Oh man. All right.
But yeah, as a director, I think he does a pretty good job. There's some spots where it feels a little bit amateurish in some ways, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's few and far between. I think he's working with really good people.
Yeah.
His DP on this was Bill Butler, who's the guy who shot Jaws, I believe.
Oh.
And uses one of the great Jaws camera moves towards the end, where they do that Hitchcock thing where they push the camera toward the actor while zooming out, or vice versa. It might be the other way, where they
No,
zoom
but I
in
know
while
what
they
you
pull
mean.
away.
There's that moment where the person seems to rush towards you
in the background.
and the background
yeah.
rushes away.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a really cool camera move.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I think he does a good job. This was, from everything I've read, this was kind of like he got his buddies together to make this movie. Like he was friends with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh.
He was good friends with Powers Booth.
That guy from TV?
That guy from TV, yes.
Yeah.
The guy who, have you ever seen Deadwood?
Oh God. I think maybe I saw like the first episode, but no, I didn't.
I love Deadwood.
Yeah.
Deadwood's fantastic. But you know Ian McShane, right?
Yes, yes.
So Ian McShane is the swearing, hard living bar manager.
Uh-huh.
When the rival bar opens up across the street,
Yeah.
Powers Booth is the guy who runs that bar, and it's like having in Street Fighter when one person picks Ken,
Yes.
and the other person picks Ken, but he's got like green on instead of red or blue or whatever.
Yes.
So it's really
just like a bizarro version of the same character.
Definite Spider-Man pointing meme. But Powers Booth is great.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys who's in tons of stuff and always kind of does the same thing, but it always works.
Yeah.
Like he's got
Again, it's kind of a matter of casting. Like there's a certain type of character in your project, then you want a certain type of actor, like Powers Booth, which sounds like a fake name.
It does. In the pantheon of actors with really fake sounding names, Powers Booth followed closely by Rip Torn. But yeah, Matthew McConaughey is the lead.
Is the baby-faced lead.
Yeah, the baby-faced lead.
He looks so young in this.
He does. The way that his hair is styled goes a long way to making him to how he looks, because when he comes in from the rain and it's all kind of like forward, he looks super young.
Yeah.
And then later when he's in the
and
sheriff's
they have
unit,
it like
it's all
slicked back. All
Yeah.
of a sudden, he kind of looks like closer to modern day Matthew McConaughey, which is extremely angular.
Yes.
Instead of like kind of rounded.
Yeah, it's like he lost 5 pounds from just his face when they slicked his
He
hair
probably did.
What do you think of? What are your thoughts on McConaughey in general and in this movie?
So I love Matthew McConaughey, and I'm not ashamed to say that half of it might just be that I find him wildly attractive.
Okay.
Like I feel like everybody gets at least one or two
right.
of those actors, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those for me. But no, in this, I think it works really well in this because he has a certain like just kind of guilelessness that seems very put on in this movie. Do you know what I mean? He seems almost too like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, officer.
Sure.
And I think it ends up working. Like at first he comes off as like maybe he might just be a little slow. But then as the movie goes on, it's like, you know, I think it works. I also think if you're going to have somebody talk a lot during your film, that it's nice to have someone with a pleasant voice to listen to.
He does have a good voiceover voice.
Yes.
Like even though he's got that thick Texas accent.
Yeah, it's like nice though. It's like enjoyable to listen to him.
I want to hear him try to sell me a Lincoln.
And he will.
One day.
He will.
If I could go back and tell myself from 2001 anything, I'd say, Clay, one day Matthew McConaughey, that voice, it's going to try to sell you a Lincoln. And you're
I just want him to like read me audiobooks.
Oh, I'm sure they're out there. You know,
gotta find
he
them.
seems like someone who's on the Calm app. You ever hear those commercials where it's like,
yes.
listen
yes.
to LeBron James read you the phone book to fall asleep.
I feel like that would be the least relaxing thing ever.
But I think
He'd be like, LeBron James would be putting subliminal messages about the only important thing being winning.
yes.
And it would just amp me up a
Well,
lot.
you know, you got to hear it some way.
Yeah.
But I think he does have. I think he's one of the people on that app who has like spoken word stuff or reading stuff.
Now they got
So,
me, Clay.
yeah.
God damn
That's
it.
not even. We're not even getting money from them. And I just probably sold a lot of subscriptions.
There you go. Calm app, sponsor us.
Yeah.
You know, been watching horror movies all night?
Yes. Yeah.
Need to calm down before bed.
Did I tell you one time? So one time towards Christmas a few years ago, I downloaded A Christmas Carol, read by Patrick Stewart, and
Oh, wow.
which is fantastic.
My
And
jaw literally dropped when you said that.
I put it on because I like to listen to stuff when I go to sleep. So I was like, I got this. I'll throw this on. It's Christmas time. I couldn't go to sleep because it was too good. Like his.
I thought you were going to say he was keeping you up because he was scary.
No, his like just delivery was just. I mean, obviously it's Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
But I was expecting, I guess, calmer, and he was just like, it had a lot of gusto built into it. And I
Yeah.
was really into it, and I did not want to go to sleep.
He
until...
went full stage theater actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
This episode brought to you by Audible and the
Yeah.
Calm app.
Call us.
Yeah, McConaughey's interesting to me because I never really thought twice about him until probably about 8 years ago. Well,
When True Detective came
yeah,
out.
kind of.
Yeah.
Well, so he, in my mind, was, oh, he's the guy from Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the guy who's in all those shitty rom-coms. And then he turned into, oh, Matthew McConaughey, yeah, True Detective, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But along the way, he's got a couple movies that stand out as him really trying to go for something different.
Yeah.
This being one of them, Reign of Fire being the other one.
Huh.
I fucking love Reign of Fire.
Isn't he in Mud too? Isn't Mud
Yes.
his thing where he
Yeah.
was like a dramatic role for him?
I think so.
Yeah, I liked that movie. I remember thinking that was good.
But yeah, I think he's always great. Like he's
Yeah.
always really good. And yeah, but for some reason he started getting really pigeonholed into these love interest rom-com roles.
Because he's extremely attractive.
I guess, yeah.
Well, it's funny because I actually think this was the very first thing I ever saw him in.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And he's got something. This is gonna sound like an insult, and I don't mean it that way. He's got this face that just like it's like a mirror almost.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like he can have like
so blank and like
Yes.
vapid and empty.
yeah, actually, like I'm not. That's not his face all the time, but when he needs it to be, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he kind of uses that to great effect in this movie, where he's like,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, he's like it's like a mask that he's put on
Yeah.
instead of like a personality that shows emotion. Like when he's sitting there talking to the FBI agent, he's not like emoting at all. Like he has like a very flat affect. And I think given what you find out about him and why he's even come to the FBI office, all makes sense later on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really good. I think you're right. That's a great casting choice, or at least a great way of him playing it too.
Yeah.
Because of how the movie ends up playing out as it goes.
Yes.
He has a really weird filmography. Yeah. Like he's in Dazed and Confused is his first. Yeah, he was apparently in Unsolved Mysteries in 1992, which is an episode I need to find and see now.
I need to watch it every day for the rest of my life.
Dazed and Confused was his first movie.
Was he like a child in Unsolved I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on Unsolved Mysteries.
92.
How old is he?
He is. He was born in 1969. So
What?
89, 90, so he was in his 20s, early 20s.
I don't understand. Is he like Paul Rudd? Is he just aging backwards?
Maybe. I think. Yeah, he does kind of look the same, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks thinner in the face, but
Yeah.
beyond that, I'm telling you, it's that flat affect thing. If you don't make facial expressions, you don't get wrinkles.
Just love that flat affect.
I'm all about a good flat affect.
But yeah, he does Dazed and Confused, where he's kind of a bit of
a bit dazed and a bit confused.
well, yeah, he's kind of a breakout, memorable role in that.
Yeah.
And then he's actually in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Wow.
And he's kind of in a bunch of other stuff I don't really know. And then he's in A Time to Kill, which is a big one for him. And Contact. He's the mid to late 90s are pretty big for him. He's in A Time to Kill, Contact, Amistad.
Oh God, yeah.
And then after that, he kind of starts to dip off, and he ends up, in the early 2000s doing a lot of romantic comedies and stuff.
Yeah.
And he kind of came back up and start doing weird stuff again in the late 2000s, which
you
I
gotta
really
do.
enjoy.
You got to do weird stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, he's one of those actors who, up until recently, when he became like a thing again, I was kind of like, ugh, that guy. And then I see the movie and go, yeah, he was really good. Like,
I was gonna say he reminds me. He's one of those, and I feel like we have fewer and fewer of these kinds of actors now, where it's like such an enormous name that you kind of have a tough time when you hear the name divorcing the person for like the actual person.
Yeah.
From the character.
I think I always just wrote him off as just kind of like a pretty face actor. I did the same thing with Brad Pitt.
That's exactly who I was going to compare him to, and I feel the same way about both of them.
Became one of my favorite actors. Like, I think a little bit before that got cool, but even at the time, I felt weird about it because I was like, Brad Pitt's he's like the hot guy. But every Brad Pitt movie I saw, he's like he was great in it, and the movies are really good. And McConaughey's the same way, where he's like.
Right, you almost feel like from a sort of film snob, I'm too cool to like the mainstream people point of view that you should disavow liking this person.
Right.
And then when you actually see the work they do, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He's actually good at his job.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I keep coming back to Reign of Fire. Reign of Fire is such a weird movie to me.
An extremely bizarre movie.
It's so great. It's a movie about dragons.
Yes.
In the post-apocalypse, the whole world has been wiped out by dragons.
It's a medieval movie in the future.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's from 2001.
Around
and
the same
in this
time.
movie, is it 2001? Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Isn't this 2001?
Yeah. Reign of Fire is 2002, so it's the next year.
Yeah.
In this movie are Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, and Christian Bale.
Yes.
Just killing it.
Yep.
With giant fucking
it
dragons.
being dragons.
It's such a weird anomaly of a movie that I feel like nobody talks about, but has 3 huge stars in it before they were really huge. I mean, McConaughey was the biggest name in the movie at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like we've talked more about the movie Identity and the movie Reign of Fire in this podcast episode than we have actually talked about Frailty.
Yeah, a little bit. We should probably just get to the point.
Let's talk about the twists.
Yes, the twist of this movie.
I'd say there's multiple.
There are, and I think that actually I was really trying to decide whether or not the extra ones were necessary. I kind of think they are, but basically the big twist of this movie is Matthew McConaughey, who is portrayed himself as Fenton, the adult version of Fenton Meeks.
Yes, the older brother who is skeptical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is telling this whole backstory to Powers Booth, the cop. And the twist is that he is actually Adam Meeks, the younger brother.
Who is the believer.
And that he has lured Powers Booth out to the Rose Garden where they buried all these bodies because Powers Booth is himself a demon.
Is on his list.
Who is on Adam's list, and he's going to kill Powers Booth. That is the base level twist.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other things that come after that I was trying to figure out if it was necessary or if it was just, hat on a hat situation.
Right, because the first one you sort of you get he's gotten Powers Booth out to the Rose Garden, and he's revealed this by Powers Booth has caught sort of a discrepancy in his story, and he kind of calls him out and he's like, I am Adam Meeks, blah blah blah. And then the next twist we get is that the actual Fenton Meeks grew up to be the God's Hand killer.
Yes.
The serial killer that the FBI is looking for.
Right. So it's not that Adam is the killer. It's that he is also a killer.
Right.
So both of the boys have grown up to be killers, one of whom, Fenton,
Yes.
has just gone nuts and started killing people.
Right.
The other one, Adam, who has quote unquote not gone nuts and is just killing destroying demons. It's
very,
a weird,
very important word
It's
choice.
an interesting move to have it not just be, oh, it was me the whole time, but have it be, no, I didn't lie to you. My brother is the God's Hand killer.
Yeah.
But I am also a killer. It's like an episode of Hannibal.
Yeah.
They just
that was the joke we're making. They all are just kind of living in the same area. But it makes a weird amount of sense because their father was told that Fenton was a demon.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of Fenton's childhood is what created him as a quote-unquote demon.
Sure.
Like, he probably would not have started just straight up murdering people had his dad not been like, God is telling me to kill people.
Right.
Which led Fenton to axing his dad in the chest.
Oh, yeah. No, Fenton very clearly has been mentally shattered by the events of this movie as a child.
Yes.
And that has followed him into his adulthood.
Right. So in his mind, he might actually think he is destroying demons, but he's killing people. Adam is just straight up followed in his dad's footsteps.
Right.
Like, angels are coming to me and giving me names. I have to deal with them. But it does make sense that, like, yeah, if your dad was murdering people in front of you, the chance that you're both going to grow up to think that's an okay way to move through the world is like, oh, all right, I buy it.
Yeah. And it's interesting that Fenton, who did not think it was an okay way to go through life, gets there by being broken. Whereas
by being locked in a cellar for 2 weeks until he has a vision.
Yeah, and Adam just goes along with it, and he seems fairly fine with it.
Well, and I think that, that leads us to the sort of tertiary twist.
Yeah.
Which is that it turns out that it's true.
Yes.
That the dad really can see demons.
Yeah.
And that his ability has been passed to Adam.
So that's one of the things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Because as we were watching this, we get to the end and he makes the reveal that he's actually Adam.
Yes.
And your husband pointed out at some point where, like, there's stuff happening that Adam is not, as a child, Adam is not privy to.
Yeah,
It's just scenes between Fenton and the father. But since this is a story being relayed by Adam, it doesn't track that he would know the events that he's telling.
Well, you don't think Fenton would have told him? Or that he could have kind of embellished?
Well, I was thinking about that, where I was like, okay, well, I mean, everything that is being talked about is believably something that Adam would have found out eventually.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking about it more, and I was like, there's nothing that says anything he's told this cop is true. Like, he is, from minute one, complete unreliable narrator. And so anything that this story that he's weaving about stuff that happened to him and Fenton and the stuff that he wasn't there for, he could be making all that stuff up, or he could be putting the pieces together for stuff he wasn't there for, et cetera.
I would agree that there's probably some filling in the gaps here and there. Yeah.
And so that made me start to think about the kind of reveal at the end that seemingly the father seems to be kind of right.
Yeah.
In that we're kind of going back and seeing these moments where he was putting his hands on these demons and freaking out.
Right.
And now we're actually seeing the visions that he saw.
That Adam saw too,
yeah. And so it's sort of proving that what the father was doing was actually right. Unless it is a furthering of the unreliable narrator or psychosis that Adam has.
I'm going to say, I think you're giving this movie a little too much credit.
I don't know, because like there are things in this that I thought about where I was like, in any other movie I feel like this is a huge issue, but in this one, like for instance, the one that I was thinking about first was, where's he getting the names from? If he's not nuts, I mean, if he's nuts,
right,
he's got to be getting these names from somewhere,
right?
But they never say where the names are coming from, who these people are.
Yeah, it's never people they've met before.
Right.
They have to drive a few towns over, or they have to go here or there. Yeah, it's not like, oh, it's that lady who always checks us out at the grocery store.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's very nicely left ambiguous where those names are coming from.
Yeah.
Assuming he's just insane. And so when you get to the end and you're seeing these visions and stuff, I start thinking like, all right, is this the movie telling us that everything that he did was real? Mm-hmm. Or is this the movie just showing us that Adam shares the same psychosis that his father did? What I can't explain by that metric, though, is the videotapes scrubbing him from existence.
I was going to say, and the fact that the guy who literally like took him in and walked him into Powers Booth's office is like, I stared him right at the face and I have no idea what he looked like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then goes and meets him and is like, hi, nice to meet you.
Right.
Doesn't even recognize him when he sees him, doesn't recognize the sound of his voice. So that's why I think the movie means it, that the father and Adam are actually getting some sort of visions.
Yeah.
Like, I think the movie isn't trying to leave it ambiguous at the end. I think the movie is pretty clear with itself that it is saying, the engine block angel is real and he wants you to kill Powers Booth.
That's so interesting to me then, because like, I don't disagree. Like the movie does seem to be saying everything that you just saw happened and was true to some extent. But like, I guess, what is that? Maybe I'm giving the movie or wanting too much from the movie when my response to that is, well, then what is this movie saying?
God is real.
You know what I mean? Like,
exist among us.
I guess it's just something that seems to be set up as a story about a psychotic father. Yeah. And him going off the deep end and pulling his family apart.
Yeah.
To ultimately come back at the end and be like, no, he actually was getting visions from God and his demons and stuff. Like, I don't know if that's, I mean, maybe I'm thinking about it too hard.
I mean, maybe, but also, I kind of commented on this a little bit when we watched the movie. Mm-hmm. At the end, it doesn't really give, so then, just to round out all of our twists, right? Mm-hmm. The kind of last and final twist is that Adam Meeks, Matthew McConaughey, mm-hmm. is not only killing people also and getting visions from God, he's the town sheriff now.
The town of Meat.
Meat,
Texas.
Where they grew up, Meat. Which I actually think is a really interesting choice as well. But he's the sheriff. Mm-hmm. And his wife's in on it. Mm-hmm. And that's also kind of a twist. You assume it's going to be like, oh, he's disappeared and no one can find him. It's like, no, he's the sheriff. He's right there. But at the end, when the FBI agent kind of comes to tell him, we went to your brother's house, we found all these trophies, he's clearly a serial killer. And then the FBI agent leaves. The sort of like last scene where it's like Matthew McConaughey and his wife standing on the corner and the camera's kind of panning out. Mm-hmm. It's not like a triumphant shot.
Right.
It doesn't it's not like the soundtrack doesn't give you the way it's kind of presented doesn't give you the impression that he's like great and a hero and that the good guy has won. It kind of leaves you with this like unsettled, eerie feeling.
Right.
So maybe you're right. Like maybe I'm underthinking it, and maybe part of it is supposed to leave a question in your mind of like, is this person actually destroying demons, or did the FBI, by some weird combination of chance and ineptitude, just leave this prolific serial killer alone?
Yeah, it does. It makes me think about Fenton's Ultimate Fate, where he is driven insane, becomes a serial killer, only to be
serial killed
himself
by his own brother.
Well, and that was part of what I was thinking about in terms of the unreliable narrator aspect of it, which is like, is it possible that Fenton wasn't actually killing people and that whole thing was set up by Adam? But I mean, that seems to be like, that's a lot of.
I was gonna say, I also feel like that would be if we were supposed to even suspect that, I feel like there would have been something to imply it even a little bit.
Yeah.
And there kind of isn't.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just makes me think about the Fenton character, and it's like, what a fucking downer. Like he's, he kills the monster essentially in the past, only to be driven nuts and become a serial killer.
Or is the implication that he was always the monster?
Yeah, that too. That he's, I mean, even if that's the case, that's even sadder.
Yeah. Yeah, that this kid was like born a monster and stayed one his whole life.
And don't get me wrong, I don't need someone with a cape on coming down and being like, I'm the hero of this movie, or like, it's just once you start getting into this idea that they are actually being pointed by some sort of cosmic being to start killing people for what seem like quote unquote justifiable reasons.
Right. So we find out that like the woman they kill first definitely slit some guy's throat.
Yep.
The old man they kill was a child molester and potentially child murderer too.
He's gonna come back as a sleep demon.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's just like everybody they kill, you sort of get this montage of all the horrible things that they've done.
There's that one guy, the last guy that I think is the one after he kills the dad. He had one scene in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And he just made a meal out of that scene.
He's just chewing it up.
Where
Yep.
He's got like 3 lines.
Yeah.
You hear the wife in the house and he's like, would you shut the fuck up, you bitch?
Yeah, and then he's
just really
I got
going
a tire iron for you. It's around back.
What are those gloves for, man?
Yeah,
really making some choices.
The person who in a murder mystery would be the person who you would never suspect because it's like, oh, he's too obviously a creep and a criminal.
Right.
No way it's him.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think the ending works. I think it's a really fun twist. I think it's effective. But yeah, I guess this time I just started thinking about like all of the really sad implications that come along with it.
Yeah, and I think part of it is like, if Adam is really being guided by God, there's no like in the actual world, in the world we all live in reality, like we're not seeing any benefit to what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, he's destroying demons, and these demons or people, whatever, have done bad things, but there's never a moment where he's like stopping them from doing the bad thing or catching them in the act and then killing. Like, he's not Dexter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where it's like, oh, you're going to hunt down and kill this young woman, but I'm going to catch you first and I'm going to bring you over here and I'm going to kill you before you can kill her.
Yeah, he's just dead zoning people. Well, I mean, technically that's before, but
yeah, so you never get a sense that he's like, there's no grateful almost victims being like, oh, I was being kept prisoner and this guy was going to murder me, and then someone came and killed him first and now I got to live, hooray. And there's no, I don't know, it's just this weird feeling you're left at the end where it's like, functionally this is a story about 3 men who all killed people,
right?
And on a practical level there's nothing outwardly discerning them from one another.
Yeah. I think for me, if I had to take one of the things off the board,
one of the many twists,
yes, I would take the video scrubbing off the board, because I think once you put in this like supernatural video editing software that prevents his
the angel
face.
Gabriel just going smudge.
Yeah. Angel Gabriel stealing the tapes.
Yeah.
Once you put that on the board where like some sort of supernatural element is making it so people don't remember what he looks like, or making it impossible for his face to show up on camera.
Yeah.
That is, I feel like you're really saying, okay, something's going on here.
Right. It sort of makes it it makes it very difficult to argue against the idea that, oh, Adam and his father really are getting visions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if you took that out,
yeah,
I think there's more wiggle room to be like, okay, even though we're seeing the quote unquote visions.
Right. It's all from Adam's point of view.
Exactly.
So, yeah. How much can we trust that given that he's murdered so many people?
Yeah.
But that's the other thing is also like this rose garden. When you see it in the flashbacks, it's like right in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yes.
It's not like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's very public. And when you see him bring Powers Booth there, there's like 16 fucking graves. And they are like mounded up. They are not subtle.
No,
it's
they're
not
like graves. It's like burial mounds.
Yes, and it's not like he's like, every time I kill someone, I plant a rose bush on top of them so no one can find them. It's like, no. They're all right there. They're very, very, very visible.
And he's been doing this between him and the father.
Yes.
They've been doing this since 1979.
Right.
How much room is left in the rose garden?
But also,
who's taking care of the roses? Nobody's noticing?
Well, maybe he takes care of the roses.
That's true.
Maybe
Good
it's,
point.
he's like a botanist as well. But also, like, you'd think someone would notice.
Right.
Like it's a public area. Someone can just walk in.
Right.
So the fact that I think between no one can see them on camera, nobody seems to remember them when they see them. They snatch that dude from a parking lot in front of a department store in broad daylight. No one comes to question them.
Nope.
No one says, oh, we think we saw your car in the parking lot. Like, there's just all of these things that add up to making it seem like this movie wants you to really believe that these people are getting visions.
Well, see, I think that's the thing for me. Like, if you took the actual God's hand scrubbing the video out of it, and just kind of relied on luck and coincidence that his face never ended up on the camera.
Sure. And
also, like you're saying, Matthew McConaughey, these are your words, completely blank void of a person.
Yep.
You could rely on the other cop being like, honestly, I didn't really look at him that much. You know what I mean?
Did you ever watch Mad TV?
Yes, I did.
Did you ever watch Miss Swan?
Oh, sure, yes.
He looked like a man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Where it's like there's a certain, how many people have you met where you've probably talked to them for 5 minutes?
Maybe Matthew McConaughey is this FBI agent's Bill Paxton.
Yeah, exactly.
And he just, you're face blind when you look at him,
Exactly.
like I am with Bill Paxton.
Yeah, like I think there's a believable level of that where that other FBI agent could be like, honestly, I was on my way out. I didn't even really stop to think about it. I
had a couple martinis at lunch like you do, and
and so like when he comes to meet him at the sheriff's department later, and he looks right at him, he looks different, he's got his hair done differently.
Yep, he's in uniform.
Yeah, there can be a moment where he's kind of like,
squint. Oh, hi. Did we
look kind of familiar, but I can't really place it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that gives you enough wiggle room to kind of say, okay, you could go either way with this. But once you have supernatural elements scrubbing the videotape, I feel like
really
it's tough
hard to like inject some ambiguity back into it at that point.
Because even I think it still works with all the things you're talking about, where it's like these people are being buried right in the middle of town with very conspicuous graves. They're stealing people right out of the middle of town. Nobody's noticing. I think if you can still look at those things and go, well, clearly they have somebody on their side.
It's a Crystal Lake scenario, and the whole town is in on it.
No, well, yeah. That's always the best way to go. No, but you know what I mean. Where it's like those are things that seem silly, but when you think about them in the context of this, it's like, oh well, yeah, somebody or something else supernatural is on their side, or if there's no supernatural things going on, coincidence and luck.
Right. Small town. Nobody's really poking around very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
who knows where they're probably pulling from other states and stuff. But,
right. Yeah, but this makes it kind of tough to. This movie makes it, I think, so explicit with all of that, that it's tough to kind of find that ambiguity and kind of sit in it.
Yeah, I actually, like I said earlier, I forgot the actual ending. I remember the first twist, but I didn't remember the stuff after it.
Yeah.
So I thought the natural ending point of the movie was when Powers Booth is like, I'm an FBI agent. They're going to find you. And he says, God will protect me. And then he does the axe and they cut to black. I was like, oh, yeah, well, that's where you end the movie, obviously. But then they do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I guess I think it works because I think it does strengthen everything else.
Yeah.
And doesn't make it just a one twist movie.
Yeah.
But I could see argument for cutting that stuff.
Yeah, it's tough because I think I'm more in line with you. If I was going to change anything, I think it would be to add some of the ambiguity back in.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's actually strengthens things to have him be sheriff, because it's like, oh yeah, of course he's in a position of power.
Sure.
He kind of sets his own schedule. People don't question if he's busy or he's out or if he comes back with some blood on his clothes. It's like, oh yeah, I had to, go break up a bar fight or whatever. Like,
right.
Yeah, so I liked that reveal. I even liked the reveal that the wife is in on it, that she was the one kind of backing up his story. But yeah, I don't know if you need all the stuff with making it so explicit with the brother of going to his house and finding all the trophies in the basement and all of that. It just gives the FBI an excuse to come to Adam.
Yeah.
I do like when he shakes the FBI agent's hand and says, "You're a good man."
Yeah.
I actually really
good.
like that, because it's like, whether or not this is something that's true or it's just in his perception, it's sort of a nod to the audience of like, I have decided to leave this person alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Interesting ending to an interesting movie. What do you think of the title?
So I think it's like weirdly maybe a little too esoteric for the rest of the movie. I don't know. Not esoteric. That's not the right word. I think for a movie that leaves such a little room for ambiguity, it's a very ambiguous title.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing there's, I'm sure there's probably biblical quotes about human frailty.
Yeah. According to the writer's commentary on the DVD, the writer Brent Hanley says, "Frailty to me was always about the frailty of perception, the frailty of morality, the frailty of right and wrong." And he says, "I like the idea of an abstract title." However, one of the other things in here, I want to talk about ambiguity.
Oh, God.
It says, allegedly, the title Frailty, which is never spoken in the film, refers not to the slow disintegration of the family, but to the very low budget for the movie. Lionsgate considered changing the title to God's Hands, but Paxton and writer Brent Hanley insisted against this. Ironically, the Brazilian title is The Devil's Hand. I seriously doubt that the title of this movie is a reference to the budget.
I highly doubt that as well, especially if your option was we can name your movie after a reference to the tiny budget, or it can be God's Hands.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I believe the one where it's more like we liked the abstract title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a fan of abstract titles. I think you can read. I think the word applies in this movie. I think you can find the places to apply it.
No, I think that's true. I think it's just kind of ironic for a movie that in the last 15 to 20 minutes really spells a lot of stuff out for you. It's funny to have such a title with so many levels of interpretation you can apply.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be it. This was number 190 on our list. Do you like that placement? Do you think it belongs on the list? Would you move it up? Would you move it down?
So here's my thing. I think the only way this really belongs on the list is if there really are angels visiting these guys.
Oh, because otherwise it wouldn't be a horror movie?
Right. Then it's just kind of a psychological thriller.
Yeah, this is a really interesting line drawing kind of movie.
Yeah.
Because it really, I feel like, and this is probably going to be me going back on what I said about American Psycho, but I kind of feel
I feel like I go back on everything. Like every other recording
Yeah.
we do, I contradict myself
yeah,
completely.
yeah,
So
that's the name of the game when you do this stuff. I feel like anything that involves axe murder is pretty safely in the horror camp.
yeah, I mean, there's something weirdly bloodless about this movie.
It is a very
though.
bloodless movie.
Like literally and figuratively,
Mhm.
where it's sort of like we're not even set up to have a ton of sympathy for the victims,
Right.
especially not where the only extended scenes we see any of them in are like victimizing other people horrendously.
Well, I think what's interesting about that actually is that the sympathy comes from exclusively from Fenton,
right,
who is the one going like, "Are you guys are fucking crazy?
right,
These
you're
are people
murdering
you're killing."
humans, yeah,
Yeah.
but so it's tough. I feel like this movie really toes the line between thriller, like a psychological thriller and a horror movie.
Mhm.
And I feel like what tips it into horror for me is the religious theming and the potential
Yeah.
of a sort of supernatural or divine influence happening.
Yeah, I would agree. I think even if they're not literally supernatural stuff showing up, the
Yeah.
fact that he is having those visions that are
Right.
presenting
Right.
supernatural elements, I think that counts.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you keep it on the list? 190, it's only 10 spots from the bottom.
Honestly, I would probably bump it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had enough. I always say this. We've had enough movies that we've done as wild cards. Even some of the ones that we're planning on doing coming up for the Patreon exclusives that are Stephen King movies, while maybe not up to the level of something like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, some of the ones we're doing are really good, influential horror movies.
Sure.
And the fact that like Children of the Corn isn't on this list, but Frailty is.
Yeah. This is 190. I'll read you 191 through 200.
Sure.
Phantasm. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get Phantasm off the list. Phantasm, the American version of The Ring,
Oh.
The Mist,
Oh.
Open Water, Jacob's Ladder, It's Alive, Hellraiser, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Phenomena, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. I would put, honestly, I hate to say this, even including Phantasm, I would put all of these movies higher than Frailty.
I would too, honestly.
And it's not that Frailty's a bad movie, because it's
No,
not.
no.
It's like but it does occupy this weird space where it's like, yeah, that was really good.
Yes.
I'm probably not going to think about it ever again.
Yeah.
Until the next time I watch it in 15 years.
Right, and questionable whether or not this is even a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably bump it, especially based on where it is.
Yeah.
Because like the 200 spot is really interesting. I don't know if we've ever really talked about this specifically, but it's like it's the bottom of the list, but it's also the movie that goes there feels like it needs to be important because it's kind of like kicking off the list.
Yeah.
Even though it's the last one on the, you know what I mean?
But it's sort of a benchmark where it's like everything that comes after 200, 199 through 1 has to hit a certain, like, not, like a certain standard,
Right.
like everything that comes after Nightmare on Elm Street 3 has to kind of exceed that in some way.
Right.
And I don't know if Frailty pulls it off.
Like, honestly, I would put, I know I shit talk this movie, but like if I opened up this list and I saw Phantasm at number 200, I'd go, perfect movie to start this list with.
Yeah.
Because it has cachet. People seem to like it for some reason.
I was going to say, maybe it's not quality-wise the best movie that you've ever seen, but it's definitively a horror movie. It kicked off a franchise. It's a cult classic. It's iconic in a lot of ways.
It's probably going to be on this list somewhere.
Right. If it has to be on the list somewhere, we're going to put it in the lowest spot.
Yes. I want it as far away from me as possible. But yeah, like if you open this list and even American Psycho, it's like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while it was Black Christmas, and it's like, well, I think it should be higher. But if like you,
much higher.
If you open it up and the first movie you see is Black Christmas, you're like, okay, I'm in good hands here.
Yeah, or even American Psycho, where I would argue, I would have a hard time arguing that Frailty if the supernatural elements of Frailty are actually just psychological, then I don't see how this is a horror movie and American Psycho isn't,
Sure.
or vice versa. If it is you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You know what's really weird though, talking about this?
Yeah.
I have a bigger problem with Frailty being at 200 than I do it being at 190. Like if it's
see,
like
now
if,
that is weird.
no, because like what I was just saying, like I feel like 200 is this weird like opener.
Yeah.
And if like Frailty's not a movie I would think of as being like a list starter. And it does feel to me like one of those ones that you're just gonna like throw a dart at in the middle somewhere, or like you got to fill out 200 movies.
Yeah.
Sure, Frailty will be on the list somewhere.
Yeah,
but
and maybe we'd feel a little different about this movie if we were fresh to the twist.
yeah, maybe.
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it might hit you harder.
Yeah, but I think we're in agreement that as it stands, probably take it off the list.
Probably.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But good movie though.
Yeah, I do enjoy it, and I honestly would say, if we're talking about would you recommend this movie kind of deal, if you haven't seen this movie, I would recommend that you watch it.
Yeah. Yes.
I would hope that you have watched it before you listened to this podcast.
Yeah, it's a recommend. Yeah, I would be curious to see how this plays now. If it still works or if it's, people are too savvy. We'll see, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like we said, I think there's enough curves at the end where you're not going to predict everything.
You're probably going to figure out midway through that quote unquote Fenton, the adult Fenton quote,
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey isn't telling you everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, I mean, we're already running along here, but
Yeah, sorry. Guys. I just want to keep talking about Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, get a room. Bring your
Happily?
you and your get your Frailty
Sure.
DVD and go lock yourself away in a room somewhere.
Actually sounds fine. I need some alone time.
But like it's kind of like ingeniously structured where he's pretending to be his brother. Like I don't think it's as easily parsable.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
I feel
he's-
like most people would sit there and be like, "Oh, he's actually a killer." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? People would probably believe that, like, "Oh yeah, he's a murderer," or like he's actually the killer the whole time, and then you find out he's actually not even.
Yeah,
who he
because
says
it's
he was.
not like he comes in and he's like Fenton Meeks
Yeah.
is the killer, and it's not like the twist is I'm Fenton Meeks, because like he said my brother.
Adam.
No, but he says my brother Fenton Meeks.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what he says?
No. He's saying he is Fenton at the
he's saying
beginning.
he is Fenton.
So he's like, "Hello, my name is Fenton Meeks. My brother Adam was
Right.
the God's Hand killer."
Okay, so maybe it's not as clever as I thought it was. Anyway, good twist.
Yeah.
It works. That's going to be it for Frailty, I think. We have come up on our next wild card.
Wow.
Which is a quick one because we shuffled some stuff around to get in Better Watch Out for Christmas. So for our next wild card, it's my pick. We're going to be doing a movie called Dead and Buried from, I think, like 1981.
Ooh.
It's actually one of the first movies that Stan Winston was the lead special effects guy on. Stan Winston, who created the Terminator and Predator and stuff like that. It's a movie where I think I saw the box art at the video store all the time. Weird cover. Never rented it. And then I finally sat down and watched it. Maybe like, there's a internet show called Trailers from Hell, where different filmmakers will talk about horror movie trailers and like what they liked about the movie and stuff. And Guillermo del Toro did Dead and Buried, and the trailer by itself got me, and then hearing him talk about it got me even more. So I watched it and I loved it.
Nice.
So it's one of those rare movies where I was like, I feel like I found one that doesn't really get talked about a lot. So I'm looking forward to everybody else watching that. But yeah, so that's going to do it for Frailty. Next time we'll be doing Dead and Buried. Thank you guys for listening. If you'd like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/The Penske File. If you sign up for our Patreon, you can join our coverage of the, I can't think of a better way to say it than the Stephen King also ran adaptations.
Yeah, the second string.
Second string. There we go. Second string Stephen King adaptations. Stephen King adaptations that are not on our main list. January was It Chapter 2. February is Silver Bullet, and then it's a little bit random after that. But you can follow along through Patreon at patreon.com/DupenskiFile. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Guy.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.